Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Give me a minute, let me just check everything's all good on my end over here. I'll have a little webcam image. There we go, I'll get me up on webcam today. We'll get the rubbish out of the background, shall we? There we go. My kid's socks. There we go, that'll do. And naturally gotta have my bear with me while I'm at it. There we go. How are we doing today, guys? Sorry the show's starting a little bit late, but I'm here now. And I'm just checking to see you guys can hear me. The signal strength is all good. And we'll get into today's little Truth or Therapy session. Back on the usual schedule, back on a Sunday, as per usual. We've got a little presentation as always, just a little something, nothing major, but something I thought was interesting, which I think I'd like to share with you guys, get your opinion on the matter. Let's see what's going on. So I've got the chat up here. Okay, live. Let's pause that. Sounds fine, says Kelly Clark. Thank you. Patiently waiting for Paul. Yes, guys. Sorry I took so long, but thanks for being here. Trumpty Dumpty, Ruminate, and Kelly Clark and Kanga. Great. Thanks for being here, Kanga. I appreciate it. Right, guys. Yeah, it's like it's all kind of loading for me. I just need to get the chat visible in OBS, the software I use, so I can see what you're saying while I'm showing my stuff. But just give me a second, docs, chat. There it is. It looks like I can put it there. Excellent. Right, how are we all doing, guys? If anyone has any interesting topics they want to share with me today, bring it up in the chat, leave a message, ask a question. Later on in this show, after I've done a little presentation, I am considering attempting to get some of you guys maybe to call in and share some of your ideas with me and anything you want to talk about at all, and we'll have a bit of a back and forth. If you are interested, the email is being posted into the chat right now. I think that is spelt correctly, yep. And all you guys need to do is just send me an email with your interest in having a conversation there, and I will be able to send you a link which you can just click and it'll bring you straight onto a conversation with me. All you need is an internet connection and a device that can run the internet. That's it. It's all done through Skype, but you don't need a Skype account to do it. You can just click the link and you'll be connected straight to me. It's that simple. So yeah, if you're interested, guys, send me an email to that. That would be great. But I would like to connect once more with my subscriber base. I used to do this years ago before I had to take my little hiatus. And it was hit and miss. Sometimes the old crazy would get through. Sometimes we'd have a great conversation with like-minded people. So I'm open to trying it again, giving it a go. Really opening up that back and forth. It's a bit of fun. So hopefully we can get that going on today. If not, we'll just do the usual Q&A anyway. Let me see who we've got in the show right now. I've got 22 people here at the moment. Brilliant. Let's check the Telegram group. Right, guys. I'm just going to make sure people know in the Telegram that we're live. Like I said, I'd like to get some regular faces in for this show if I can, hopefully. I don't need this tab open, wasting all the bandwidth. But yeah, guys, I'll just get into it. I'll share with you a few random little things that I have picked up over the past couple of days. Again, it's nothing major. These aren't groundbreaking discoveries, but just something that I thought was interesting. Joseph Grimaldi. A quick clown thing, which I want to bring up, and another example of demons found in barley, which have a striking resemblance to the original clown of Joseph Grimaldi, and this is sort of something from my book, really, but I've just got to the part of my book where I'm discussing the life of Grimaldi, and I found this image of a particular demon in Bali called the Kalasungsang. Yes, the Kalasung Sang. And it's literally the upside down demon, okay? And I've just got to show you this. Because this struck me, this struck me hard when I saw it. I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Because, I've always said, in my own research, it seems like Charles Dibdin, who was the son of a prominent Freemason, perhaps the most famous songwriter of the era, his son, who had the same name. It gets very confusing when you start going back in time, looking at genealogies. A lot of people don't know if they're the sons or the brothers of certain people, but the son who shares the same name as this prominent Freemason, an extremely famous and influential Freemason in the music industry, created a brand new costume for the clown in the 1800s for a show called Peter Wilkins and the Flying World. And it's based, Peter Wilkins and the Flying World, is based on a novel written in the 1750s about someone who travels to India. Okay, so give me a minute. And yeah, so it's literally about, and that's when he decides to do the costume change, okay? Now, Bali, obviously, is a part of Indonesia, south of Indonesia, just north of Australia. It's a bit further away from that, but I think it's basically just, that area in general, the East. It's inspired by travelling in the East, and this traveller finds monsters, flying monsters and things like that. So demons, basically, by any stretch, or hybrid humans of some kind, flying hybrid humans. So this show gets created by this Freemason's son, and the lead actor in it is this clown called Joseph Grimaldi, and he creates this brand new costume for him. And I've literally found the link of where the inspiration directly comes from for the clown costume, I think. Okay, so let me just share this with you so you can see what I'm talking about here, because this is just bang on, all right? And I'm going to have to include this in my book now. I found it. So if I share the screen with you here. So first of all, this is Joseph Grimaldi, okay? And this is the famous actor of the era who, after this particular event where the costume was changed into what you see here, he became the most famous clown ever. So this was the beginning of him becoming the most famous clown in history. The person who's been credited with creating the image of a clown. And here's the early clown costumes he would wear. After the 1800s, after this costume change, he would look something like this. All right? But I thought what was interesting in particular is this image here, is really popularized image of him upside down with his head positioned like this. And this is actually a direct copy of the Kalasung Sang of Bali demonology. Here he is, upside down with his head showing, with these patterns all over his skin, this psychedelic imagery patterns here, in this artwork. And I thought, hang on, that's literally Grimaldi. Can you see? That literally is the costume there. And I think these travelling Freemasons had witnessed this, the artwork depicting this upside down demon and the psychedelic colours and patterns involved with creating it. Here's some statues of it, for example. This is basically a quintessential. This is Bali's version of a Nephilim creature. But okay, bear that in mind. That's what it is. That's what you're dealing with here. And it's the Kali Sung Sang. The upside down demon is literally what it represents. It's this thing here. And I think that's what Joseph Grimaldi's costume change was based on, because it was also, the show was obviously about somebody who's traveling that area and interacting with these strange beasts in that particular eastern province. So there you go. Look at this monstrous costume, the very first clown costume. And this is stylized after something, isn't it? And I think Bali had a huge influence on it. Bali iconography. Here's another example of it. This upside down demon monster with this big grisly smile. This big, wide, grisly, clown-like, demon-like smile. And yeah, this is definitely it. This is where it comes from, I think. This was the stylistic design inspiration for that costume change. Absolutely. And I think obviously the clown was supposed to represent, in a hidden, occult manner, the demons of the region. Here's other examples of Bali artwork. It's all very similar to Indian demons, to be honest. Here's the upside down demon again, the Kalasung Sang. There it is, with all its frills and strange psychedelic patterns all over its skin. You know, and that is this. That's what this is. So yeah, once again, modelled after a demon. And as we've already discovered, you know, Harlequin, who the clown replaced, Arlecchino, as it was originally known, is basically modelled after the Wild Man of Europe. And for some reason I'm getting some weeb stuff coming up here instead of what I actually need. But yeah, this thing here with the club and the pattern fractaled clothing is modelled after Helikins the Giant, or the Wild Man of Europe, which once again is our version of the demon. You know, the thing with the club. The big hairy man with the club. That is what Harlequin is based on. And the Wild Man tradition often is celebrated with extremely psychedelic, colourful clothing. So it's all connected. Here's some of the Wild Man traditions clothing here as well. And obviously the prime example of a European version is the kukri in Bulgaria. And they quite often go with the psychedelic patterns to represent the wild men. And this is where Arlecchino comes from. This is what he was inspired by and adapted into the Khmer art movement as a character. And obviously, like I said, this Kali Sung Sang, or the Bali demons, the particular visage of a Bali demon. So if I type in Bali demons, you will probably get Rangda the Demon Queen and the Balinese Barong, which is the demon with the big smile and the red hair and the bulging eyes. This particular look of a demon, which you find in, obviously, these Indian and Polynesian provinces, is just like the Greek stylization of Medusa as a Gorgon. You'll find the smile is extremely similar. Here's other examples of it. This one as well. This is obviously a completely different region with a different history, you know, but you find the demon looks the same because they're depicting the same demons. They were all experiencing the same thing. This is what the Nephilim looks like. They look like clowns. This is what clowns are based on, you know. And I think the stylized image of Grimaldi upside down with that look and that smile that we saw earlier here. If we can get off this. Where is he? Where's the upside down Grimaldi? There he is. That is definitely an inspiration from that, which is Medusa, a Gorgon, a half-human, half-serpent hybrid, with the Kala Sung Sang demon, with the similar visage, the similar smile, the similar look to the Gorgon there in Greece. And you know, this is it. And that was this upside down beast here, which was stylized highly here, for example, is what Joseph Grimaldi is mimicking here. This is it. This is what it is. You know, this is what, you know, the clowns looked like, or are based on these creatures, the Nephilim, the hybrids, the human serpent hybrids with the big wide smiles. You know, he's a prime example again of this particular demon. Terrifying stylized stuff. It's been done over and over again in all Balinese artists, modern and old. But this one in particular really screams the same as the costume we see here. And the fact that they're in the same position and styles, I think, kind of says it all, to be honest. Here it is with his legs together, just like this, very similar. So I thought that was an interesting little link. I thought I'd just show you guys a little tidbit I picked up along my research and along the way. Maybe I'll make a separate video about this for the series, you know. I've not made an episode in a while because I've got quite a lot just lined up to talk about. I don't know where to start. I don't know which one to bring first. But this is just another connection I thought was fascinating. But even then, the demons of Bali, like Rangda, the Demon Queen. Don't know what's come up there. Let's get rid of this Kali Sung sang at the start. But Rangda, the Demon Queen, is a terrifying visage. Look at this thing with the fractal lines as well in the clothing. This horrible beast smile. There's a stylized artistic version of it with the black and white fractal patterns. Particularly here's a highly coloured version, stylized version, but she's often depicted with this vicious, gross, horrible, bulging eyes, crazy mask, you know. And here she is again, highly stylized with this tongue sticking out. But creepy, terrifying stuff, you know, and these were Nephilim creatures. And this would be akin more to a siren. This is the demon queen, the mother of demons, the mother goddess worship angle. These would have brought the sirens. These were the women who mated with the fallen angels. This is what they became. These were the ones that birthed the beasts, you know, the demons. And obviously she would fight with the dragon and be defeated by the dragon, which is the Barong. This thing, and they do this ritual every year where the dragon Barong fights the demon queen and defeats her, and then, you know, obviously then mankind worships the dragon afterwards. So it's a false dichotomy. It's like a false savior thing. It's the clash of the titans, you know what I mean? It's the gods of Mount Olympus, the dragons, fighting the titans or the demons, the Nephilim. You know, it's just their version of the same story in a way. But this is the Barong creature. This is the dragon that mates with the humans to create the Nephilim beasts. You know what I mean? It's all kind of connected. Creepy stuff. And there's a lot going on in that area. I mean, if I just type in Bali region here and show you on maps just what we're talking about in terms of distances. So this is where that demon mask originates. Let's just get rid of this. I won't let it go away. Right, there we go. So this is where this thing originates. Can you see here? And that's quite a distance from, you know, Greece over here. So just south of Indonesia, the Bali region. Okay. And then we come all the way over here, through the Middle East, to Greece, and then we have the Medusa stylized image, and they look identical. It's kind of, these guys are not sharing a cultural heritage, but they depicted the human snake hybrids in an identical fashion, because they were dealing with the same creatures. This was a worldwide phenomenon, you know, and look at that vast distance of land. It's extreme when you actually look at it. And like I said, it's the same story everywhere you go. They were dealing with these monstrous demons. More so in the East, it seems. They have a very hyper-stylized image of the demon, which is fascinating. But yeah. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. A connection to Joseph Grimaldi, and yeah, the Kalasungsang, the upside-down demon, as it's known. I think we found the direct inspiration. And like I said, here's other examples of these demons in this particular region. Look at these things. Look at these monstrous psychedelic monsters just surrounded with these humans that look very similar in their weird hybridized ways, you know what I mean? Trying to look like these monsters with the pale white skin, the big red lips, wide, you know, the tusks sticking out, the fangs, the third eye, monstrous big wide smiles. Very clownish features on these creatures. Yeah, and here's some artists creating images of them. This is for a museum in the region, in the Bali region, and it's depicting some of their artwork. But look at these demon masks here, absolutely terrifying. There's Rangda on the right, there's Barong on the left, and some human masks there, some drama masks in the middle, some hybrids. I think the upside down demon's this one here. Yeah, but look at these monsters. Naturally, you have serpents at the top with dragons as well. It's all connected. It's all the same history, isn't it? But yeah, interesting stuff. So I'll share that with you guys. I'll come to the chat, see what's going on. Bit of an introductory little topic there, which I thought was interesting. And we'll close this map while we're at it. So what's going on, guys? What's going on in the chat? Let me just switch to webcam. There we go. Yeah, right. So what's going on? Signing on from Telegram, excellent. What's going on with the book, mate? Can't wait. I'm writing it. You're going to have to wait. That's what's going on. God bless Paul and all. Zalodius, great to see you. Can't unsee it, says Drunk Wedding Photography. Yeah, it's everywhere. Sorry guys, just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, sorry, reading through the chat, that's going on. So, Swedish Northeast County, Norrbotten, was a wild man with a club in the crest. Yes, it's everywhere, all over Europe. North, east, west, and south of Europe, you find the wild man tradition everywhere. It's in every country. It's undeniably there. And they all have their own way of doing it. It comes from a lot of things. A lot of mainly Norse, Celtic, Teutonic, Mediterranean history, all kind of mashed together into some weird iconography representing giants with clubs and hairy giants that roam the land. Very fascinating stuff. Demon clown or demon clowns wherever you go. That's right. That's true, Kelly. Marky Themic says someone's mother-in-law. That's right, for real. Is this title real with the golden blood? That's some scary coincidence. I was reading a comic where it depicted angels with golden blood. Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a minute if you stick around, Chris. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Greek mythology and how the gods had golden blood, called Ichor. Ichor, I think it was pronounced. Ichor. I don't want to say Ichor. It's probably Ichor. I imagine that's how they pronounced it. And yeah, it's interesting, and I think it links to the Nephilim quite well. So it's worth just adding to our arsenal of possible descriptors for these creatures. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me just catch up with this chat very quickly. Ruminate. I believe in Greek mythology that the gods had golden blood known as Ichor. Yes, because you beat me to it. I can't wait to share it with you. Probably post it on Telegram later. Can't chat right now, unfortunately. Just listening and working on my house. Okay, excellent, cool. So I'll look forward to that in the Telegram chat. Paul, trade in the past was really massive in ancient times. Wouldn't wonder what products, ideas, culture, food from Europe coming from Asia, vice versa, happened. The Silk Road. Yeah, but this was a book written in the 1750s, which inspired this play written by Charles Dibdin called Peter Wilkins, and Harlequin and the Flying People or something like that. And it was based on a book prior. If you give me a minute, I can get the details up. I just need to find Kindle. Where is it? See, I'm useless with Macs. I'm just absolutely useless with Macs. So it's going to take me a while just to find one app here. You'd think it'd be alphabetical, but it's not. There we go. And I'll find the exact book that Peter Wilkins was inspired by, which might give us maybe this is me doing a bit of research now, to be honest, which to help for my book. So let me just find it quickly. So he didn't want to do any favoritism. Yeah, so Robert Patlock's 1751 novel titled Peter Wilkins. It was the story of a shipwrecked mariner who discovers an island of flying people. So what Charles Dibdin did was devise a pantomime that was based on this book, which is kind of like Gulliver's Travels mixed with Robinson Crusoe, in which all the major characters would be doubled. There'd be 2 harlequins, 2 pantaloons, and 2 clowns. And I'll get into that in another time, but it was basically done as a diplomatic way of making sure the old actor, this French actor called Jean-Baptiste Dubois, would still get to be a lead character. But it was also giving Grimaldi a chance to be the lead as well. So they made 2 clowns and 2 pantaloons and 2 harlequins, the 3 main characters, which would normally be played by 1 actor. Now it's being played by 2 actors because there's 2 of each. But yeah, he basically created off this novel called Peter Wilkins. And I think the shipwrecked mariner was in these islands, the Polynesian Islands. I think it was that region in the book where he crashed. And these demons he came across would have had this visage. And it was this particular show where the costume change happened. If I could find the section here. Yes, so it says it, to further mark its departure from the regular harlequinade, and, no doubt, to cajole Dubois into going along with it on account of its novelty, Dibdin decided to deck the clowns in costumes that were totally new. Dresses, he said, that were more extravagant than it had been the custom for such characters to wear, that took the form of garishly colourful doublets, breeches, symmetrically patterned with large diamonds and circles and fringed with tassels and ruffs. This was a particular significant change, as audiences were used to seeing clown in the tatty livery of shiftless servant or peasant's long smock, a costume that had served to pin the character, albeit to an ever-fading degree, to an identifiable social origin by essentially replicating the raiments of an Elizabethan slave. So it used to be a boring white robe, and by contrast, Dibdin's costume lifted the clown out of any specific context, transforming him into a stylized and inimitable archetype, a firebrand as visually striking as he was reckless and energetic. So this guy is obviously saying, oh, it was a wonderful design change that utterly changed the clown into something wholly unique, no longer modelled after anything particular. It's like, bollocks. This was clearly modelled off of the demon I just showed you from Bali. The upside down demon is literally what it translates. The Kala Sungsang means upside down demon. And he's even posing as the same demon in these old artistic renditions, you know? And the clothing matches the crazy psychedelic patterned skin that these creatures have in all depictions in their own countries. So this person who wrote this book and said all this stuff has made it clear that it was Dibdin who made the costume change, and, you know, describes what the costume looked like, but he's ignorant as to where the inspiration came from. He literally just says in this book, it was just an interesting change that lifted the clown into his own unique archetype. What does that even mean? Like, what inspired the image? And no one knows. No one's ever known. Some really pretentious idiots out there who have not done any research whatsoever say things like, Joseph Grimaldi created the clown costume, channeling his anguish and pain at his wife Maria dying just a year before. And it all came out in this crazy childlike costume where he could channel his energy as being the happy-go-lucky character, while deep down he was hurting inside. It's like, that means nothing. That says nothing about what inspired the specific design of the costume. You know, no one knows. No one's bothered to actually think about it. Until I actually started looking at it, you know, and doing this research. And, you know, it's funny because I'm doing this research for this section of my book. It's heavily historical stuff, so I have to be accurate, you know. And I'm finding out a lot of stuff which is kind of annoying, because I've been telling people on podcasts it was Charles Dibdin who invented the clown, the costume change. Well, it turns out it's not Charles Dibdin who did this, who lived at the exact same time period. It was his son, who is also called Charles Dibdin, but no one's ever made that distinction anywhere I've read it before until I actually looked into the genealogies. So there we go. It's weird when you go that far back in time and start looking at like ancestor trees, and everyone's confused about who was who because everyone had the same name. They kept passing the same names down, and then brothers got confused with fathers and things like that. For example, Joseph's wife, Maria, she died at childbirth. Now, it says specifically, okay, in the book, the memoirs of Joseph Grimaldi himself, edited by, what's his name? Famous Charles Dickens. Okay, Charles Dickens himself edited Joseph Grimaldi's memoirs, and it says specifically, Joe was called to say his wife had gone into labour. He ran to the bedroom where she would have been giving birth, but instead of finding his wife there, alive with a child, he instead found his dead baby and his dead wife who had died during childbirth, and it says her brother was hanging over her crying. And then it goes on to explain, her last words were, "Oh Richard, be kind to poor Joe," and then she died. So that infers that her brother is called Richard Hughes and was next to her when she died, and she was telling her brother, Richard, for her own words, look after him, please, because Richard Hughes is the owner of the theatre in which he works. They both worked at the same theatre. Maria, it's according to the memoirs, was the brother of the owner of the theatre. So Grimaldi married the sister of the owner of the theatre he worked in, according to the memoirs. But it turns out that's not what it meant, okay? It turns out she was just delirious. We don't know the name of the brother who was there. She was just saying out loud, "Oh, Richard, be kind to poor Joe," and then just died. Her brother isn't called Richard, who's next to her. She was just saying that out loud. Her father is called Richard Hughes, and it's her father who owns the theatre. But you look online at Wikipedia articles, and everyone thinks it's the brother who owns the theatre, but it's the father. You see what I mean? When you get that far back in time, genealogies get so blurred and confused, and history gets so weird and messed up that I've literally been spending weeks trying to iron out who is actually who during this time period. No one really has bothered to actually correct any of these historical inaccuracies. No one cares enough about clown history to actually bother to consider who these people really were. So I've had information written in my book from one source that I've had to go back and correct because I've discovered it was completely just wrong. Richard Hughes is not the brother of Maria, but in fact the father. So now I have to go back through the entire paragraph and pages I've written and change brother to father. It's becoming a whole mess. But I think I'm almost finished ironing out that whole history and getting the right names and the right characters and people involved. But God, it's just been an absolute nightmare. It has been a nightmare. It's work. This is hard work. Okay, I have literally spent hours during a writing session just reading old journals, and then 4 to 5 hours have passed, and I haven't written a single sentence. Because I had to keep reading different journals to find out who knows who was and when, because no one does fully understand. Because it's just things get complicated the further back in time you go. The records aren't that straight, okay, and people lied a lot then as well about who was who because of the taboos around marriageless babies and all this type of thing and illegitimate children and. It turns out that Charles Dibdin, who did make the costume change, like I said, is the son of Charles Dibdin, an even more famous songwriter of the time. But he wasn't always called Charles Dibdin Jr. He used to be called Charles Pitt, named after his mother, because there was a long period of time where he abandoned the name Dibdin and used his mother's name Pitt instead, because his father abandoned them as a family, But then as he got older, for some reason, he readopted the name Dibdin and became Charles Dibdin Jr. Actually, his full name is Charles Mungo Isaac Dibdin Jr., which is a stupid name. But this is the point. There's a whole history of him going under the name Charles Pitt until suddenly he readopts his father's name. I think that might have a lot to do with the craft and Freemasonry. And I think, even though I can't find any records of the son being a member of the fraternity anywhere, I have solid records of the father being a well-renowned member of his lodge. So it's likely his son also did in some way get affiliated with the fraternity at some point. Hence why he readopted his father's name years after his father had abandoned him and kind of came back into the fold. And it must have been around that time he learned a lot of stuff from his father, which led him to then incorporate these designs into his own shows. And he obviously created this brand new show, and it was a smash hit. So this play he wrote was just, everyone loved it. Everyone was raving about it. So like most people who are insiders get this knowledge and then start using it to forward their career. It seems like this Charles Dibdin the Younger did just this from information and knowledge he had learned from his father, Charles Dibdin Sr., who was a prolific songwriter of the day, massively influential, changed the country with his music type of person, And they keep it in the family, don't they? So it's all. I'm doing all the connecting, so you don't have to. But it's just, 200 years ago was such a confusing time for names and genealogies and children and wives, and everyone had like 18 children. Like everyone was just popping them out left, right, and centre and disavowing each other because of illegitimacy and all. It was just stupid. It was a stupid time. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna do the presentation on Ichor. I'm probably mispronouncing this massively. Let me just Google, how do you pronounce Ichor? And let's see what this guy has to say.
It's often pronounced as Ichor, 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 or Ichor in noun.
Ichor. Ichor. They want to pronounce it as Ichor. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'll just say Ichor for now, and then Ichor. All right, Ichor. We'll say Ichor if that's what it is supposed to be. Sure, whatever. Yeah, Ichor, Ichor. Right. Anyway, let's get on to the presentation about Ichor then. So I'll share the screen with you guys quickly, just so you can see what I'm reading. But here it is. Here's the basic Wikipedia breakdown. There's not actually much on it. It's quite short. Surprisingly short. I thought there would be more here when I looked. But as a cursory understanding, it's in Greek mythology, Ichor is the ethereal fluid that is the blood of the gods and or immortals. Interesting. The ancient Greek word Ichor is of uncertain etymology. It has been suggested to be a foreign word, so they don't even know where the word comes from, which is interesting. Ichor originates in Greek mythology, where it is the ethereal fluid that is the blood of the Greek gods, sometimes said to retain the qualities of the immortals' food and drink, ambrosia and nectar. Ichor is described as toxic to humans. I thought that was interesting. Killing them instantly if they came in contact with it. Great heroes and demi-gods occasionally attacked gods and released Ichor, but gods rarely did so to each other in the Homeric myth. So it says here from the Iliad, blood flowed but immortal Ichor pure, such as the blessed inhabitants of heaven may bleed nectarous, for the gods eat not man's food, nor slake as he with sable wine, the first thence bloodless, from the death exempt. So this person's interpreting this says, we are not to understand that the poet ascribes the immortality of the gods to their abstinence from the drink or food of man, for most animals partake of neither, but the expression is elliptic and requires to be supplied thus: they drink not wine, but nectar. They eat not the food of mortals, but ambrosia. Thence it is why they are bloodless and exempt from death. So they live forever because they drink and eat this special god food called ambrosia and nectar. And it's the eating of this special godly food that makes them immortal. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? And it says here, in ancient Crete, the tradition of Talos, a giant bronze man, or like a mechanical bronze creature, when Cretan mythology was appropriated by the Greeks, they imagined him more like the Colossus of Rhodes. He possessed a single vein running with Ichor, that was stoppered by a nail on his back. Talos guarded Europa on Crete and threw boulders at intruders until the Argonauts came after the acquisition of the Golden Fleece. The sorceress Medea took out the nail, releasing the Ichor and killing him. So it's quite interesting. It says here, a magical herb first appeared in a plant that sprang from the blood-like Ichor of Prometheus in his torment, which the flesh-eating eagle had dropped on the spurs of the Caucasus. So Prometheus was a titan who was made human, who made humans and stole fire from the gods and gave it to the mortals, and consequently was punished by Zeus for all eternity. He was chained to a rock, and his liver was eaten daily by an eagle. His liver would then regrow, just to be eaten again, repeatedly for all eternity. Prometheus bled Ichor, a golden blood-like substance that will cause a magical herb to sprout when it touched the ground. It goes here about its use in modern medicine as another word for pus, basically. But that's neither here nor there with this research. So as a brief overview, there's quite a few points I thought were interesting, first of all. So first of all, this idea that your blood can be turned into ichor if you eat and drink this particular special liquid and food that was only eaten by the gods. And it says that people who do partake in this food kind of end up having the immortality gifted to them as a result of it. So it's the idea that you can be given immortality or the blood of the gods just by drinking or eating the same food as them. I thought was fascinating. And this other point here that Prometheus, never. It says here, he made humans. That's a lie. Obviously, I think he was just another either Nephilim hybrid who claimed such a thing, or he was a fallen angel who was claiming such a thing. Perhaps Prometheus is a Lucifer analog, playing God, claiming to be God, the one who brought fire down from heaven and gave it to the people, which is a symbol for knowledge, symbolically speaking. He's the serpent in the garden who opened the eyes of Adam and Eve, he's the one who gave them fire, knowledge, wisdom. So Prometheus seems to be an analog for Lucifer, the one who gave humans the ability to see and be as gods. Gave fire from the gods and gave it to mortals, Anyway, so this Lucifer analog apparently could regenerate his liver, and I was just talking to Gary Wayne recently, and he was explaining how it seems like the Nephilim, you had to remove the head because they could just regenerate like nobody's business, basically. If you just cut them or slice them or stab them, they would heal very, very quickly. They wouldn't remain wounded, you know what I mean? The only way you can make sure they stayed down was to remove the head from the body. And this idea that Prometheus, this hybrid creature, was basically forever having his liver re-eaten over and over again because it just kept growing back, seems to be a wholly Nephilim problem, you know what I mean? And Prometheus, this Nephilim creature who had the regenerative abilities, seemed to bleed Ichor, this golden blood-like substance. So did the Nephilim have golden blood? Who knows? I mean, there's another someone here gave it a little bit more detail. It says here, while most ancient cultures were taught to fear their gods, the Greeks tried to make their gods relatable by giving them human-like qualities. People gave food and other items as offerings to a specific god for blessings, but the god never ate the food given to them. The Greeks said the gods had their own food and drink called ambrosia, which caused the blood to be replaced by a special blood called ichor. This colourless blood-like fluid was harmful to humans, and if they came across it, it said it would kill human beings. Instantly, it was extremely rare for mortals' eyes to see a god release ichor. However, it was frowned upon for humans to eat or drink the food of the gods due to the incredible powers it contained. But there are cases where a god or goddess gave a mortal a taste of their blessed food. If a human was caught stealing ambrosia, they were punished harshly. Unlike contact with the god's blood, it didn't kill them but instead gave them immortality. They too ended up with ichor running through their veins just like the gods they worshipped. Greek gods took an interest in their human worshippers, and because of this, there were many children that came from the unions between the humans and gods. There was 50-50 chance that the child could also have this strange blood in their veins, giving them superhuman abilities. People born with these abilities were known as demi-gods. Well-known demigods include Heracles or Hercules and Achilles. Their powers could be things like incredible strength or courage, or even being nearly invisible. So I just find this fascinating that people say the Nephilim were created simply by human fallen angels mating with human women. But this is implying that some of them were also created by making them eat a specific special food from heaven, basically, that bestowed upon humans godlike abilities if they were lucky. If they were lucky. Perhaps the whole mixing of genetics, the true Nephilim creatures, the ones that are half serpentine, half human giants, they are a product of blood being mixed, the Ichor being mixed with the human blood. You know, they say the life is in the blood in the Bible, you know, and I think this emphasis of blood is specific, you know, why we need to be covered in the blood of Christ as well, and why the blood is so important. It might literally have something to do with this literally tainted bloodline, with this thing called Ichor from Greek mythology, you know, and so that means there would have been two types of creatures. There would have been the very human-looking demigods, and these were the ones that basically were given the powers through eating food. So they weren't mutants in a sense of visually, but they were given godlike power and abilities. You know, the people born with these abilities. The word "born" was used here, so that confuses things a little bit. But this idea that, you know, if you eat the ambrosia, you'll end up immortal like a god is interesting, you know, and seems like a problem. I mean, I think it was said in the Mesopotamian flood myth, you know, from the Epic of Gilgamesh, that Zuazudra or Upnapishtim was gifted immortality by Enki at the end of the flood. Okay, so this is not Noah. This is a Nephilim king surviving the flood, or, you know, a corrupted human surviving the flood with the help of fallen angels, Enlil and Enki. And like I said, it says Enki gave him immortality for surviving the flood. How did he give him immortality? Well, did he perhaps give him this ambrosia? Did he perhaps give him some of this food? It says, eat this, drink this, right, you're immortal now, see you in a bit. Is that how it's done? I don't know. You know, I think there's something important about this. You know, there's something about this, something strange about this concept of having golden blood as well. I don't know if I can link this to the clowns anyway yet. I don't know. If anyone can relate clowns to having golden blood in any scene that they've imagined, I don't know. Let me know. But this person here was going on about the idea, and he talks here about, you know, Ichor was present in an automaton named Talos. He was hoisting up some heavy stones which he towed deep them from the anchorage, when he grazed his ankle on a sharp rock, and the Ichor ran out of him like molten lead. So it seems like this special golden liquid is like a fuel of some kind that could power automatons, robots. It's like an oil that runs through the veins of golems, of non-flesh creatures, mechanical monsters and creatures, you know what I mean? Like robots, basically. And it's this Ichor that gives them life and makes them be able to act and perform tasks like a human in a way. And that alone, considering the age we live in, where robots are being pushed further and further as technological advancements, and it seems like in Greek mythology they had robots that were powered off this strange fuel source, which was golden in nature, called Ichor. You know, you have to just imagine that concept, and it's fascinating. It says here, in Italy is a small town called Lucca. It's seen as a fountain of malodorous water. The mythical story is told that those of the gigantes, or giants, who survived at Campanian, Phalegra, and are called the Luturnian gigantes, were driven out by Heracles, and on fleeing hither for refuge were shrouded by Mother Gaia, and the fountain gets its melodious stream from the ichor of their bodies. So it's saying here, this particular fountain in this city is legend says that the fountain was created by the flowing blood of the giants that were defeated there. Okay, which is Ichor. So this is literally saying giants, or Nephilim, had Ichor blood, golden blood, in this particular story here from, this particular region. You know what I mean? This Lucca, a village in Italy, has this myth about this particular fountain. It's just strange. And it's also described as ethereal. It's not quite liquid, though it runs like liquid. It's got a magical property, a magical non-corporeal quality to it in some way as well, which is another interesting concept when discussing this idea. So that being said about the mythology of Ichor, I remembered that this has actually been represented in an extremely popular video game when I was a teenager, like when I was like 15 years ago, we're talking like quite a long time ago, called Gears of War. And now Gears of War, on the surface, when you first play it, it's about a human colonized planet called Serra, which runs off this fuel source they call emulsion, which is a golden, flowing, glowing liquid. Okay, and they refine it to create all sorts of energy and fuels of all sorts of kinds. And whole wars were fought over this resource in this world. And then suddenly, during a time of peace, after the war has been fought by humans to solidify who gets to control this flowing gold, creatures start bursting out of the ground, which are like human reptile hybrids, okay, called the locusts, and they start just decimating the planet, and this new war begins between the humans and the locust army coming out from under the ground. Alright, so never mind the fact that that is a literal reference to locusts coming out of the pit in Revelations 9, where it says here, "And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, or either a green thing, or any tree, but only men which do not have the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And the torment was the torment of a scorpion, as he striketh a man. And in those days men shall seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and the heads were as the crowns like gold, and the faces were the faces of men." So crowns of gold, thinking of Ichor there as well, in the golden colour, that's interesting. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were the teeth of lions. So long, crazy hair, sharp buck teeth. These locusts coming out of the pit, along with Abaddon, I think it is as well, which is Apollyon. Or I think another word for Azazel, or the angel who mated with the human women, who was locked in chains, who created the Nephilim. These are just Nephilim hybrid creatures, it seems, coming out of the ground. And, or perhaps the humans who corrupted their own image, not the Nephilim who were killed, but the humans who edited themselves into these weird-looking shaped creatures. Whatever, that's speculation for now, but it says here, locusts came out of the pit, and this whole video game is literally about creatures called locusts that look like this, bursting out of the ground, and just mauling people to pieces and ripping everything apart, and they have a hierarchy, a religious hierarchy, in fact, and all sorts of things going on. And at first, you're led to believe, that these are just the original inhabitants of the planet. And humans came and started tapping into their precious life source. And these creatures decided to take back their home planet by coming out from under the ground onto the surface and wiping out this plague of humans that's come to destroy them, to take their precious resources. Turns out that's not true. As the series goes on, the plot thickens. Turns out these creatures that you see here, these locusts as they're called, used to be human. And it turns out during this initial war between humans, some illegal genetic engineering was going on, in which lead scientists were mixing the emulsion that they had found, this golden liquid, they were mixing this with human DNA. They were creating super soldiers and strange hybrid creatures. They were taking the blood from creatures who were native to this area, these weird looking faunas and plants, and mixing it with humans. And as a result, the locusts were created. These things, these reptilian human hybrid looking monsters. So by mixing the golden flowing oil of this planet, the Ichor, shall we say, the emulsion as it's called here, by mixing this with the creatures who have melded with it, the blood of the creatures who were melded with this stuff, they created hybrid human monsters that look like reptilian human hybrids called locusts that burst out of the ground. I mean, if that is not just ripped straight from the Bible and Greek mythology, I don't know what is, and it's right there staring you in the face, you know what I mean? But something happens, you see. Working with emulsion is incredibly dangerous in this game world. Alright, so basically, as it explains here, you get this thing called lung rust or something like that. I can't remember what it's called here. Golden Age, collision of the governments, the Pendulum Wars. So these are the wars over the resources. Then there's a health crisis. Okay, so miners of the emulsion, their families became poisoned by emulsion. It was discovered that exposure to emulsion vapors during mining and refining led to a fatal respiratory condition known as rust lung, and what we were told about Ichor, but it was incredibly toxic to humans who came in contact with it, killing them instantly. Okay, and it's the same thing as this emulsion. Turns out it kills people. It's extremely dangerous, okay, to be around, and toxic. So this is why what they did, they started trying to create a neurotoxin or an anti-neurotoxin that would cure rust lung. And as a result, some horrible genetic engineering was done during this operation called New Hope. And basically they ended up, like I said, mixing humans with these crazy things to do with emulsion to try and create a result. And instead, it resulted in the creation of the locust horde. Okay, but the first hybrid was this bizarre monster creature called a sire. I find it interesting that the first hybrid creature, mixing the blood of the gods or the emulsion, the gold goo, with humans, created what they call sires. And what do we call royalty but sire? And in the Nephilim culture, the antediluvian age, the Nephilim became the kings and rulers. They became the sires of the human race. And in this video game, this work of fiction, the first hybrid was called a sire. So what they did, they refined it. And then they took from the original OG Nephilim, or the sires here, the first of the kind, they took the blood of this thing and then mixed that with humans, and that created the more refined and well put together looking locusts. Okay, so the locusts are a result of the mixing of golden flowing goo with humans, and in order to create super soldiers in the end. That's what it became. But anyway, the locusts felt like prisoners under the ground, and they realized they wanted their own autonomy. So they rebelled against the humans and started a war. And that's what they truly are. So in the end, the locusts are kind of the victims. They are the result of in unethical genetic engineering who just want their freedom. But at the start of the game, you think they're like evil monsters who are just wiping out humanity. And it turns out there's this woman who's immune to emulsion. And she was working on the original project with the original Doctor, or something like that. And she becomes the queen of the locusts. So she becomes a mother goddess, basically. She becomes a siren, and she becomes the one who leads the locust hive mind. She's kind of like connected with it, but hasn't been mutated by it. And she's basically an Ishtar. She is a mother goddess symbol. Just like we get in ancient mythology of ourselves, where you get the mother of Nephilim, the sirens became the mother goddesses of the time. And it's all in this game. And they have this huge religious order. The locusts are highly religious. They have this priest as well, who was one of the first genetic engineered monsters. Can I get it up here? Can I find it? This guy here. So this guy was one of the first creations, but he didn't become a sire. He kept his intelligence, And as a result, he became a leader, and he became like a religious leader of some kind of the locusts, and instigated himself as a religious god among them. The more intellectual locusts, you know what I mean? But they have this glowing yellow eyes, and you find that what happens is the longer they spend around emulsion, the more corrupted they become by it, and they end up getting genetic corruptions and end up glowing, and their veins start glowing yellow, and they start getting mutations and getting bigger and stronger, but they become more beast-like and lose their mind. So it's as though the blood of the angels, the Ichor, or as it goes in this game, the emulsion, can drive a man insane and make them powerful, yes, but utterly become evil and corrupt as a result, almost like monstrous zombies. And that's what starts to happen. The emulsion starts to get to them, and they start glowing like this and getting really weird, and they start getting strange hybrids, and they get extremely volatile, and they end up they literally explode because they have too much of this emulsion in the system, and they literally become like explosive bombs. Here's an example of one here with the blood coming out. That's all yellow. It's extremely volatile stuff. It's like extremely volatile, and here it is. The Ichor dividing the two here from human to monster. The blood of the gods creating these hybrid creatures, stylized and fictionalized into this, this energy source being abused and genetically engineering humans, creating monsters. It's all kind of there, it is what it is. But the ones that end up getting like mixed up with this stuff become these weird monstrous creatures you see here. They start glowing and becoming deformed, and they stop being the locust, and they become this other thing, this demonic looking entity. They get more demonic, if that was even possible, it's all there. So if you've played that game, you never really thought about it before, there you go, guys. I think we found the inspiration for pretty much the entire plot of Gears of War. It's just set in space rather than in the ancient mythological antediluvian age. But it's all the same story. All there. Anyway, there's a little presentation for you guys. I'm going to switch it back to the webcam. And let's see what you guys have to say about that. Let's have a look. I'm just going to scroll back in the chat. The Indonesia's culture get influenced by European culture is not far-fetched. I suppose not. No. But it's not. They have their own stories. You know what I mean, about encounters with these creatures that are different. So it's not like it's the same story about encounters with these creatures. They're completely different stories set thousands of miles apart, but the creatures they describe are identical. So I don't think it's a shared story being travelled across the land. I think it's two completely separate events, different stories, different encounters, different interactions, different results, but the creatures are the same. They're describing the same creatures that they had to have these encounters with, because they were all over the place, and that's what I'm saying. Makes me think of Pangaea. Maybe these lands were closer together aeons ago. Yeah, there's that. Maybe. I have 3 things I've been holding on to until I can talk to you guys. I know you don't know me well, but I'm always watching and keeping up with Telegram as much as possibly can. I just don't talk. Alright, well, fair enough. Don't worry, you don't have to talk, but share anything you can with us on Telegram. We'll be open to listen. You nailed it, Paul. That was a dead ringer of that demon. Great detective work. Oh, thanks, Kanga. I'm so excited to read your book. Excellent. You should elaborate and write a book with Gary Wayne. Maybe in the future, but Gary's very busy doing his own thing right now, and so am I. I got home in time. Thanks for being here, Batman. Thanks for the research and all you do for us, Paul. You're appreciated. Thanks, Stacey. The Bible even says that Israel has extensive trade, not just in the Mediterranean Sea, but perhaps the east, like India, through Enzion Jeba. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry, Chris. Yeah, but don't get me wrong. There was some definitely trade going on at the past. But I'm talking like this is ancient history. This is folk history. This is a time long forgotten type of history. The antediluvian age history. This isn't the relatively modern time period. These stories are older than that. These are oral traditions passed down through millennia. That a lot of these stories come from. Were court jesters somehow related to these demon clown characters? Yes, court jesters are based off of Arlecchino. They're based out of the Wild Man tradition. They are based out of the performing arts out of Rome and Venice. And basically, these performers and actors found a lot of work working for rich people during the Dark Ages, mainly because they couldn't work in public during that time. It was considered incorrect and of the devil to perform publicly, unless it was specifically to passion plays and, outing the devil as being evil. But you found a lot of these performers who couldn't find work in these old commedia dell'arte plays and these plays. They would be hired as personal performers for kings and queens, and often became confidants and court jesters. They became resident, and that did happen quite a lot during the Middle Ages. But a lot of these court jesters also worked simultaneously in the public doing the commedia dell'arte stuff coming out of the medieval period, and were travelling performers. But you'll find most of the commedia dell'arte characters are jesters of a sort. You've got Punchinelli, you have Harlequin, you have Pantaloon as well, and Columbine. They're all kind of jesters in their own right. They all have exhibit a jester-like quality, and all, like I said, the main character Harlequin was the demon character of the commedia dell'arte, modelled after the Wild Man of Europe, and you'll find a lot of jesters modelled themselves after Arlecchino as well. So it's all kind of loosely connected. But you'll find the stylistic choice of how they created their characters was based off a lot of European medieval representations of the devil and the wild man. So yes, the court jester is literally designed after a devil. Yeah, that is true. Court jesters were like Heyoka, able to say uncontrollable truths with no consequences. Well, that's not true, actually. Some of them did suffer consequences. Not every king could take a joke. The point was that they could have done that, but it didn't always work out that way. I see, thanks. Some of the outfits depict them with similar pattern suits, yes. I smoked salvia once, and only once, and for 15 or 20 seconds everything turned into a cartoon, or so I thought. In hindsight, it was a circus and clowns, not cartoons. Salvia summons clowns. Yikes, never tried it. My first time hitting salvia, I was also up for 2 days already smoking meth and crack and eating ecstasy. Took me straight out of that high into cartoon weirdness for 10 to 20 seconds. Strange. Well, sounds like you had a heavy weekend. But yeah, salvia is a crazy one. Salvia is actually more powerful than DMT. People don't realize this. It's no joke. Like, that drug is no joke. That plant is serious. And yes, it will take you to another dimension for 10 to 20 seconds. But it's hard. It's a rough place to be on salvia. Like, it's truly a kaleidoscopic, psychedelic, fractaled matrix of a carnival full of crazy creatures. Like, it takes you there, and more. DMT comes with this clarity high where you're still conscious and think like you do, and you're still kind of there. Salvia just takes you out of yourself completely. You are bodiless, and you no longer have the sensation of a body, and you blend in with everything, and it feels like you've gone insane. It feels like more of a psychosis. You're in this loop you can't get out of, and you're just constantly trapped in this loop. No matter where you look, you get snapped back to the middle, and you're stuck there in this it's like a pulsating box that keeps you trapped in this dimension, and you've no body, you've no mouth, you've nothing, What your body is actually doing, what people see when they look at you doing it, is you're rocking back and forth like crazy, and you're laughing hysterically. That's what they see. But what you see on it is you're in this crazy dimension, and it's just all coming at you at once, and you can't do anything. You have to just take it. It's like you're being bombarded with it. It's really harsh. But DMT is more like I'm here, I'm me, I can see my hands, but look at me, I'm also in this crazy world. What's going on here? You can think, but on Salvia, you lose everything. You lose you, your body, you just become a dot, being just absorbing all this information from this crazy dimension you're in, and it's like you're being tortured. It's like hell, in a way. But then you're back suddenly. It's over with as quickly as it comes in. Salvia is no joke. But this is the weird thing about salvia. It was sold over the counter in head shops as like a harmless herb, just a herb you can smoke for a bit of fun with your mates. And it won't do much. And no one ever thought anything of it for years. I think it's illegal now. I think it's because I think people finally clocked on to it. But you can just buy this over the counter. Any head shop without ID. It wasn't a problem. People just thought it was like hashish or something. It's not. It is not. But anyway, let's keep going on here. That's awesome that you're so dedicated to getting the names and family stuff right. This is going to be a great book for fact reference too. Great work, Paul. Thank you. It's hard. It's really hard. I'm trying. I'm hoping I don't publish it. I've made a mistake with this because you just can't know sometimes whether it was the mother or the daughter, or you just because the names are the same, and it's the death records and the birth records are all over the place. It's yeah, it gets tough. Apparently, your liver does grow back. They can do transplants from just part of a liver. That's interesting. Ancient knowing something is up when it comes to the liver. Yeah. Those theosophic societies say, Bailey and Blavatsky, that Prometheus is Lucifer the Lightbringer. Yeah. Seems like it's a perfect analogy for it. There is possibly chloroform in Sasquatch blood. I have read that this would or may make them highly regenerative, able to cloak or chameleon or predator, and interesting, yes, that matches the description of what we saw there of people who have Ichor in their blood. Interesting. Ichor. I don't know. Vampire bites make you immortal too. That's true. Yeah, it wants you to have that transference of blood. You become immortal. You become a vampire. You end up living forever. And you don't age anymore. You get godlike abilities, but you also have this other side effect where you have bloodlust and need to drink people's blood. There's heavily negative side effects to mixing yourself with. It's nothing but evil in the hearts continuously type of stuff, which was told about in the Bible, and in Enoch, that the people who mixed themselves and did all the hybridization and got into this thing, this strange world of the occult, and the secret knowledge, they became utterly corrupted. Mainly physically and spiritually, physically was happening as well, and it's psychedelic time. Not a place you would want to have been, let's put it that way. But vampires fit into this perfectly. I think vampires are basically just another word for Nephilim, pale-skinned creatures with wide red lips, and an insatiable blood-drinking lust. And if you put a clown wig on a vampire, you've got a clown. This is basically the same thing, isn't it? You've just got one of these creatures I'm telling you about. In the Sinbad movie, he fights Talos, and screwing at the ankle, the oil pours out. Yes, that's right. By the way, guys, I just want to say before I carry on, you might have missed it at the start, but I would be interested if somebody might want to call in and have a conversation and share your own thoughts and opinions on anything you've been thinking about. If you're interested, you can email me at understandingconspiracy. I'm going to put it in the chat at gmail.com. Understandingconspiracy at gmail.com. Now make your request. I'll say now, just because you make the request doesn't mean I will let you on. I would like a familiar face if possible, okay? I do have to do some kind of screening process here because any old crazy can get through and just start saying any old shite, basically. I would like a familiar face, someone I know who I've been talking to for a while on here, perhaps to join in. That would be good, okay? So here is the email. If you're interested, send me an email saying I'd like to come on and talk, and I'll do a quick screening of, let me know who you are, where I may have seen you before, okay, if you're on the Telegram or something. And then all I have to do is send you a link, you click it, and we're connected. You just need an internet connection, that's all you need, okay, on your phone or on your laptop, wherever it is. You don't need Skype installed, you can just click the link, and that's it. We're together, we're talking, alright? So let me know if you're interested, and I'll set that up. All right. So the link's in the chat. Come talk. Let's actually have a real conversation. I used to do this years ago, and I'd like to start doing it again. But let's go back to the chat, see what's going on. A golden army of golems and homunculus. Oh my, that does sound terrifying, doesn't it? Biorobots and bionics, yeah. Robbie V, that it might have something to do with how they use trees as a doorway or portal, or even are able to be in the tree in spirit to facilitate energy uptake and lessen the burden of needing physical. Okay, so that's Sasquatch talk, isn't it? That sounds like Sasquatch stuff to me. Calories in inadequate amounts to sustain their high energy metabolism required to do the things they do. They have degenerated by attempting to maintain their abomination bloodlines and not having enough of a pool to keep up the healthy procreates. A lot of royal families have some rough genetic characteristics or disfigurements and have been hidden when possible. Some anyways. Yes, there's a lot of stories of royals hiding away their dirty little secrets, the deformed and mentally disabled royals and all this sort of stuff. Reptilian, totally not serpent-like. No, not at all. Totally a coincidence, yeah. Mother Goddess reminds me of Dragon Age universe, yeah. Oh, it's referenced everywhere. Absolutely, there's nothing new under the sun. All these ideas in modern media and games all just come from the Bible. They literally do. Like, it's just the same story told in a new fictional stylized way. Everywhere, rather than antediluvian age, let's set it in space on a different planet somewhere. That's usually how they go. Or some mystical fantasy land or something. But it's all inspired by the antediluvian depictions of the antediluvian age throughout all mythical cultures. Yeah, it's all there. It says, and it's like Chris has said the exact same thing I literally just said. It is often scary how all types of media kind of retell stories that have been told already. Really nothing new under the sun. We're in sync today, Chris, aren't we? Clearly on the same page. I've played all the Gears games, but never realised the emulsion stuff. Wow, says Sean. Yeah, I hadn't until now, until I just did this Ichor stuff. And it clicked. I was like, oh, I remember that. I remember the gold stuff. And I looked into it and I was like, oh, great. It was literally involved in creating hybrid creatures. It's like, yeah, nothing new. In the Bioshock game, the little sisters' eyes glowed gold and you would harvest them for Adam, which gave powers. Yeah, I loved the Bioshock series. I played them all quite a lot. I'm heavily into that aesthetic, at the time. Yeah, it was one of my favourite games, and of course Adam, and they have Eve as well, don't they? That's your energy bar is Eve, but Adam is the thing you need to gain the powers, and it's basically genetically engineered humans, gaining powers by playing God with these liquids, these plasmids as they call them, and it's all harvested from a sea slug or something like that, isn't it? And yeah, they've genetically engineered these little children to kind of be harvesters of Adam from the dead bodies in order to recycle the Adam back into the system, into the economy. So when someone dies and they still have these plasmid Adam in them that gave them powers, she sucks it out of them with this syringe and then drinks the blood of these people, these hybrid creatures, and she stores the Adam in her body, which is then later extracted and repurposed back into It's really bizarre, isn't it? But yeah, it's all there. It's the same story again, and set in a utopia, a supposed utopia, which turns to hell, obviously, underwater. particularly, and the whole Marine Kingdom stuff we can get involved with symbology there is crazy. The Bioshock game is crazy. Yeah, but good shout there, Zolodius. Were you aware that some people of native Australia have golden blood? I was not, Pamela. Thanks for letting me know that. I will look into that. That is crazy. I'm going to do it right now. Australian Aborigines golden blood. It was first seen in Aboriginal Australians. The worry with golden blood group is that the donation of RH null are incredibly scarce and difficult to obtain. An RH null person has to rely on cooperation of a small network of regular RH null donors around the world if they need. So it's RH negative blood is considered liquid gold. And there are these 19 Aboriginal Australians that are just the go-to. They found these people who have this extremely rare blood type, which they need to help with donations, they're claiming here. But it's not that they literally have golden blood, it's that they have the rarest blood type in the world, which is the RH negative stuff. And that's been a big topic in conspiracy forever. Yeah, the whole RH negative stuff. Yeah. So that makes sense. But it's not that it's literally golden. You had me going there for a second, Pamela. But yeah, unfortunately, it's symbolic of how rare their blood is, from what I've just read. I love it when the bear is in viewing your streams. Yeah, I like this guy. My son doesn't care. I got this from my son, not long after he was born, when he was like 6 months old, and he doesn't care about it. He doesn't even acknowledge this thing's real, but I like it. I think it looks really funny. So he's become my mascot in a way, I think. There we go. Pharmakia, that's something the Bible has always warned. He made it sound like Salvia was tame, says Kanga. Yeah, no, it's not at all. Yeah, it's a good job you didn't do it. What do you think about DMT being released while you're dreaming? Sometimes my dreams feel like what people describe DMT as like. I can't remember what I looked into this, and it's not quite like DMT is released when you dream necessarily. There were loads of chemicals released during the dreaming process, and I don't think dimethyltryptamine is actually a key player in it all. It's kind of a myth that there's people say, oh, you release it when you're born and when you die and when you dream, but I think that's kind of just a made up thing. I think it's far more complicated than that, and it's not produced in the pineal gland either. In the center of your brain, it's actually produced by the amygdala or something. It's somewhere else random, really random in the brain. Okay, it has nothing to do with the pineal gland. There's a lot of mythology has been made up about the power of DMT, and I don't think we actually do produce it as naturally as people say we do. It's just that we have receptors within us that readily take it easily, but it's not that we produce it naturally. It's it's a bit more complicated. But in terms of what the dream realm is, your guess is as good as mine. I don't think I have time to go into all of that today. But I have humoured that many times, yes, and it's a complicated one. The bear is the YouTube handler. You're on to me. I learned about your liver growing back from an episode of House of Cards. Interesting. He has the right temperament for the job, says Humble Stranger. Yeah, I think so. Wondering what you think of the origins of psychedelic plants are. Did God make them, as is, or were they perversions, modifications to DNA, or perhaps witchcraft cast on existing plants? I think the chemicals we consider psychedelic serve a purpose for the plant who produces them. Okay, they weren't created so we could trip. Alright, that's not what psychedelics are. That's not what the plant's making them for. The plant isn't making the psychedelic compound so we can have a psychedelic trip. You know what I mean? That's us abusing or perverting a natural thing for our own benefit or gain, isn't it? I think it's just naturally occurring compounds and chemicals that interact with our bodies when used in certain ways, but that's not what they were designed to be for. That's just what we have abused them to use them as. And it seems like the knowledge of using them was imparted to us by fallen angels in this antediluvian age, then occulted into secret societies, and that knowledge was then used and passed around throughout the millennia and the centuries down to today, in order to get human beings the knowledge and how to use these plants in certain ways to gain specific trips and go to certain dimensions and communicate with certain entities. But that was never the purpose of psychedelics. That's a name we've given to them, psychedelic. The purpose of these particular compounds and chemicals produced by specific plants was for that plant to do something specific for its own survival. It's nothing to do with us, you know. So I think it's perfectly natural, produced by God. It's just been abused by humans and fallen angels in the creations of corruption from then on. That being said as well, I don't believe specifically the spiritual realm where you can go to on these psychedelics is inherently evil either. In fact, I think there may have been possibly a time where we could perceive these things openly. The problem is it's now infested with the disembodied spirits of Nephilim, and our perception has been limited, so we can't perceive them anymore because it's full of demons. Okay, so in order to stop being able to see the demons, we had to no longer be able to perceive that spirit dimension 24/7, and now we seem to have moments of interaction with it when we dream, and also if you do take these certain compounds, or even a high fever can probably take you there. You know what I mean? Things happen, you know, but luckily we're not there 24/7 interacting with the disembodied spirits of monsters and demons who have nothing but evil in their hearts continuously. And that's it, really. That's all I can say about that. I don't think psychedelics are. I don't think the chemical compounds in and of themselves are evil. I don't think the dimension they take you to in of itself is evil. I just think there's a history that needs to be understood, that we have been taught how to abuse these chemicals for our own gain, and the dimensions it takes you to are now full of an enemy that is dangerous to interact with. So that's where we're at, really. That's my opinion. I love the discussion about the bear. Says my wife, the bear is probably 25 teddies our son owns. Yeah, he does own a lot. I looked into it, the partial liver transplant, though I didn't think I could be a candidate because I have... Yeah, I understand, yeah. It's a shame it wouldn't work for you. Plants are plants. There might be some that are actually artificial, genetically modified, but in general, too much of anything is not good. Yeah. Oh, you banished from your living room again. Yeah, I did. I kicked her out. Yeah, this is my time. Locusts are genetically modified humans. Yes, that's right. That's right. Trees in C.S. Lewis' Magician's Nephew, the tree portals to the holiday in Nightmare Before Christmas. Yes, trees. Yeah, trees are used as portals quite a lot. Obviously, I think that's a symbol of a fairy door on a tree as well. You see that quite a lot in Celtic mythology, fairy doors. Who thinks the redwoods of the Pacific Northwest in North America could be the remnants of the cedars of Lebanon? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that one. You poor dear, we feel for you, yeah. Have you come upon the term Eliud? Yes, I have, yes. Hang on, the chat just jumped. Referencing the grandchildren of the Watchers as being another addendum to the Enigma Sasquatch. Yeah, there was the Elio, which is spelled E-L-J-O. The Elio, and then the Eliud. They were the children and the children's children of the Nephilim. So they weren't the original angels mating with women. They are the true Nephilim, half angel, half human. But then these hybrids, these Nephilim creatures, also mated with human women and created a 1/3 hybrid Nephilim creature called an Eliud. And then those Eliuds raped women, and they gave birth to even lesser Nephilim creatures called the Elio. It kept going on, yeah. So there was hybrid levels, and I think, you know, Sasquatch and Bigfoot are these lesser versions, or remnants of these lesser versions. I imagine that seems to be what they are. The OG ones, the original Nephilim, the Titans, the giants, the ones that just towered above mountains, they all killed each other in huge battles with one another. That was part of the punishment of the Watchers. They had to watch their beloved ones, their children, kill each other. Not their grandchildren, or their grandchildren's children's children, just their immediate children, the Nephilim. Those other creatures, the Eliud and the Elio, were probably still around up until the flood. And the flood was there to wipe out a lot of the remnants. But as Gary Wayne was explaining, it seemed like a lot of these gods and demi-gods are all talking about in their own cultures, making it to the underworld, or Valhalla, let's say, or some kind of pocket heaven, some kind of pocket dimensional heaven, which all the Nephilim want to get to in their own particular geographical, cultural landscape, And it seems like what he was saying is, if they can get there before they die physically, then they can come back. They're safe from whatever God's punishment's going to be. But if they're beheaded before they have a chance to make it to this pocket dimension, then they're stuck on Earth. Basically, they're stuck as a spirit without a body, and that's what happened to a lot of them. A lot of them, didn't make it to their afterlife, their pocket dimension, and they were wiped out by the flood, drowned, killed, beheaded. All sorts of things happened. They were basically just annihilated. But it's possible some of them made it to their own little pocket dimensions. They made it to these places where they were physical still, but it's like another place, another a made dimension. Like, for them specifically, perhaps some of their fathers made these angels created these pocket dimensions for them, so some of their children could survive, or their grandchildren could survive, and that might explain how they managed to come back after the flood, and it might also explain the strange portals these Nephilim Sasquatches are appearing in and out of randomly, you know what I mean, to manifest into our world through things like trees. Perhaps they're the ones who made it to this other dimension, and they now come back freely every now and then. They pop up into our world, but they also very quickly sprint back to it before they get killed. Because if they get killed, they're immortal physically, sure, but if you take the head off and they can't functionally use their body anymore, they're stuck here on Earth in spirit form. You know what I mean? Like, they have an immortal spirit that keeps awake, it stays awake when they die. And they have to remain conscious, stuck here on Earth, no longer to be able to get through that portal anymore, which is on Earth in a physical sense. So that's interesting to think about, and that's the difference between us and them. When we die, we sleep, and then we're awakened at the very end for the Great White Throne Judgment. So, I repeat this point quite a lot. You're not talking to your dead relatives when you go to a seance. You cannot communicate with the dead, with humans who are dead. You cannot do it. What you will end up talking to is one of these things. And they will pretend to be your dead relatives. They've been watching for millennia. They know you. They know who your grandma was. They know who your grandparents were. They can pretend to be anybody. Everyone has a familiar spirit. And a familiar spirit is a spirit that's been there throughout the family through generations, okay? And that familiar spirit will pretend to be your auntie or uncle or whatever, they will, because they knew them personally, and they knew what they did. They watched them, they were there with them, they were feeding off them, they were like a parasite attached to them in the spirit realm. They are the one, they're the ones who make them sin and do things for them, so they can live through them and experience it through them. They stay with families, and you've got to break these ties, basically, because it's kind of like, if they can stick with a family for generations and they never realize they're there, great. Why go anywhere else? It's that type of thing. So you can't communicate with dead relatives, but you will be communicating with demons if you try, and they'll pretend to be your dead relatives. They'll trick you. They will trick you. That's the game, really. I'm going to start banishing him from the living room. Not sure what for yet, but I'll think of something. That's fine. I'll go sit in the car instead. It's fine. Considering you're also of the mind that there is truth about nothing new under the sun, is our current technology perhaps only modern to us? I think yes. I think something similar has happened in the past. But our technology is just our way of utilizing the same basic knowledge. But it probably looks a bit different to how it's been done before. But it's basically the same thing. I think every time, because what we're really doing with our technology is harnessing energy, aren't we? In different ways, different every tool we have that's electronic is a different conduit to manipulate and harness energy to do a specific task. And I'm pretty sure the things that were created in the past to do that may have looked different to the technology we have today, but they all would have had similar purposes, So stylistically, our technology may look different to other generations past, other civilizations that have done this before, if you want to believe that, But its base is all the same. It's the harnessing and manipulation of energy. Some people want to call it ether or the electromagnetic framework of reality or whatever, but it's basically, some people call it alchemy, some people call it magic, whatever you want to call it. It's looked different throughout different civilizations, and this may look, what we see today as modern technology, may be wholly unique. We may be doing things other civilizations have never done before with it, but the source is the same. Just our stylistic way of creating stuff to harness it may be different from others. I mean, it's possible, if you want to go to the Tartarian stuff or the Millennial Reign stuff, the way they harnessed the energies was through a technology which involved architecture, which is wholly different from what we do today. You know what I mean? So, who knows? Who knows in that one? Next live stream is from the bathroom. Yeah. My mum bought that bear paw. She did, didn't she? Yeah, it's a nice. I like this one. I like his shape. It's funny. We have crystals in the pineal. Don't watch the movie Cocaine Bear. Okay, I won't. On your recommendation. It says the Nephrons sinned against people, animals, and plants in the Bible. Yes, yeah, that's right. Wild, I love it. Perhaps the salt. Okay, so let me just check my emails quickly. So I'm just quickly skimming over the chat there. Right, so I guess no one wants to talk or phone in. That's fine, guys. You don't have to. I'm not going to force anyone to do that. I could just keep talking for you instead. But it would be nice just for the last 15 minutes, 10 minutes to have a conversation with a familiar face. If any of you guys do want to call in, just have a quick chat about anything, email me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com. Links are in the chat somewhere. Okay, links are in the descriptions of this video. Just send me an email saying I'd like to have a chat, and I'll give you a link, and that's all you'll need to click. You don't have to do anything else, and we can talk for a little bit properly. If you I understand you might be shy. Don't be nervous. Don't be shy. You don't have to be. It's just a conversation. It's nothing too serious. But I'd like to start doing that again if anyone at all is interested. Anyone at all. You can talk about any topic you want. It's just fine. Any question you might have, whatever it is. Send me an email at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com, and yeah, we'll have a bit of a call-in session. This is the truth of therapy session after all. So, I'd like to be that guy who can give you a bit of therapy. If you just want to vent or talk about anything in particular, this is your chance, I know not everyone has a chance to talk about these things with their friends and families at home, so come and talk to me instead. If everyone can pray for Kanga, that would be great. She's been struggling a lot recently. She's had swollen lymph nodes, just all sorts of things going on with the kidneys as well. If so, and just everything. If we can just pray for Kanga's health, that would be great, guys. Kanga, I'll keep you in my prayers as well. But yeah, if everyone can just pray for Kanga when you get a chance, and we'll yeah, we're wishing you the best there. I know you've had a really rough time of it lately. They say in Gears of War lore that emulsion is made by riftworm poo, but it makes more sense if the emulsion fell from the sky like asteroids. Well, from what I was reading about the lore, no one actually knows where it came from. They just have theories, the one of them being what you said, which is always interesting, isn't it? When even in their own lore that they're making up, apparently, they don't want to say where it came from. My father-in-law was a Shriner jester. My wife told me stories about his lack of remorse. A dog not stopped barking at his horse, so he fired a shotgun into its head right in front of her. Jesus, that's rough. And these people are nasty. Have you considered getting on Zen Garcia's show or vice versa? I mean, I haven't listened to Zen Garcia in a while. I listened to a lot of his collaborations with Gary Wayne. I used to listen to him all the time when he was collaborating with Rob Skiba a lot back in the day. Obviously before Rob's passing. So I'm aware of Zen. I like his style, and I like what he does. I don't know if he knows who I am. I doubt it. I doubt Zen Garcia knows who I am. If anyone wants to recommend him to me to reach out and have a talk with him, do so. Get Paul on. He has this amazing theory about clowns. You maybe should talk to him about it. Send him links to some of the podcasts I've done or something, and and we'll hopefully he'll say, yeah, sure, I'll talk with Paul, and then he'll invite me to come and talk with him. That's usually how this goes. I'm not going to go out there asking people to talk with me, or like about the clowns or something. But the thing is, I don't know enough about what Zen's doing lately to go up to him and say, "Hey man, do you want to come on my channel and talk for a bit?" I don't know enough. Like, I feel like I wouldn't know what to ask him about right now, or what to talk about. But if he wants to talk with me and we can break the ice and I can tell him what I'm all about, what I do, maybe that might be a good starting point. But it's tough, it helps when other people recommend me to people. And then sometimes that person gets in touch or they don't. A good example is Shelley from There's No Place Like Home. She makes some great stuff about the Tartaria stuff, the Millennial Kingdom stuff, the Mudflood stuff, but she's also a homeschooling channel, funnily enough, as well. But she likes to talk about all sorts of things in her own way, which people are attuned to and like listening to. And I've listened to a few of her things. I listened to one of her recent ones about C.S. Lewis, which I thought was fascinating. And I've listened to a few of her stuff over the years, here and there, like her hour-long presentations. And she recently commented on one of my videos, and I commented back saying, "It's great to hear from you, a long-time listener. Do you fancy getting together sometime and having a chat?" And she said, yeah. So I'm waiting to hear back from her, see if we can get something going. I've sent her my email. So these things do tend to happen organically. But I imagine somebody recommended my channel to her first. And she came to look at my stuff and then made a comment. Do you get what I mean? So it's a teamwork, I'll need your help. If you have a connection with Zen, for example, you talk to regularly on his live shows or something, then you're the person who needs to suggest to him that he checks my work out. and then hopefully something may come from it from there. That's how it would work basically. But me, just a random somebody saying, hey man, let's do a talk together. Who am I to Zen? I'm nobody. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so that's basically it. That's my answer to that there, Pamela. But if you want to suggest for me, you can help me out there. My chat seems to have crashed, so let me just quickly open this one and see what's going on here. I'll just open that. Let's close it. My wife's tempted to call in for fun at this point. No. And to be honest, guys, I've almost gone for 2 hours now, and my voice is starting to go, so I might start winding it down and call it a night, to be honest. But thanks, Pam. She says I will try. But guys, if anyone at all wants to email in, do it. Maybe not this show. Maybe next time. Maybe now I've introduced the idea that I'm going to start opening up the phone lines to people. Maybe next show I'll do nothing but a call-in show, and I'm going to sit there quietly waiting for somebody to contact me. Okay, I'll do one of those live shows. But I need you to email me your details first, basically. Okay, Chris, you've just emailed me the thing you asked in the chat. Do you want to call in? Is that what you're asking me right now? Did you send me that email of a copy and pasted message you've already sent in the chat because you want to call in? Is this the question you want to talk about on a phone call? Let me know, Chris, if that's what's going on here, and I'll send you a link. Okay, but his question is about water specifically, and whether demons have a natural aversion to water, and whether or not the flood was symbolic of this idea that water was a powerful weapon against the giants. And apparently in his Filipino culture, there's stories of demons who have an aversion to water, so it kind of matches up, which is interesting. Salt water specifically. A lot of folklore monsters with demonic nature in our culture, Filipinos seem to despise salt, and obviously the seawater would have been heavily salted seawater, so maybe there's something there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's true. The method of cleansing or purifying the world by flooding it. I think it's more likely that the flooding was chosen because it's effective. And if it's an enclosed system, it's easy just to fill the tank up, and let it sit for a while until everything's dead, and then just drain it, pull the plug at the bottom and drain it all out again. It seems like a highly efficient way of doing a hard reset, doesn't it? Was it water chosen specifically because it was particularly effective as a weapon against the hybrid creatures with the salt? I don't know. I couldn't say. Maybe they all hybridized themselves into slug-like creatures. If that's the case, then salt would have been a serious weapon against them. But I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Highly unlikely. But there you go, Chris. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if that warrants a phone call or not. But yeah. Sorry, the chat's just got away from me there. Yeah, if my wife did call, we just end up talking about Mormonism. Yeah, she does love to watch a lot of the you get those channels out there, ex-Mormon channels, where they get other people to come on to tell their testimony and story about how they left the cult of Mormonism. She watches a lot of those testimony stories, and I end up overhearing them while she's watching them and listening in as well. And it is some harrowing stories of these people leaving these horrible cults. It's it's crazy, some of the stuff that people have to go through just to get out of Mormonism. Does the UK have a time change like the US? Yes, ours went back last Sunday, I think, about a week ago. Our clocks went back an hour. Yes, so I believe for you Americans, you do it like a week after us or something, or a couple of weeks after we do. You then do the same thing. I think that's what happens in America. But we do have a time change. Yeah, our clocks go back, and then in 6 months' time, our clocks will go forward an hour. That's how we do it. Yeah, it's pretty rough. All right, see you, Paul. Have a nice day. All this trouble except for the dye reaction are due to my 2 genetic liver disease. Lately had a particular hard time. I'm sorry to hear that, Kang. I really am. Because I know you've had it rough for a long time. Phone call. That sounds super interesting. Do it. Oh, I've just got a super chat come through. What's this? Sacred Grove Bros, $20. Woodland Critter plushie background fund. The world is enchanted and you heartfully remind us. Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll get another teddy for the background for that. Yeah, absolutely. Noah's flood is a big part of the theory, yes. Really like the Kratos videos. Being busy because of university, but I'm catching one of the videos and live streams, says Paolo. Yeah, the Kratos one's crazy. Their particular Celtic tradition, which is in the northern regions of Portugal, they have a really weird way of doing the wild man. You know, really psychedelic, colourful, tasseled way of doing it. But it's all rooted in that wild man tradition. And it's just a wild man beast with a club, which is what Harlequin is based on, which is where we get the clown from. It's all there, you know, and it's fascinating. But yeah, I'm glad you like that one. I like that video too. I thought that was a nice bit of history. You got that right. And oddly, I was feeling very good mentally and emotionally. It says Kanga. My wife says the channel's called Mormon Stories, guys. That's what it's called. But my fascination goes deeper than that. I just stumbled upon that channel because of it. Yeah. Humble's been watching ex-Scientology stuff lately. Yeah, it's interesting hearing these testimonies. It really is. The one sad thing I take from them, which I hear quite a lot, is that they end up being so disillusioned with the cult of Mormonism that they lose their faith in God as a result. And that's the sad, and perhaps the end goal of Mormonism, truly, is to make people give up on God because they ended up in a cult. Do you get what I mean? And were abused in a cult, that they therefore then think that that's what God is. And, you know, that's the sad takeaway I take from it personally. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting to hear these stories. I grew up in Canada, and in my French school we had a Quebec mascot for a celebration called the Carnival, and the mascot was a giant snowman with a red hat and a multicolored scarf around him. Interesting. Paul, is about to be 1 a.m. at your place? No, actually, it's about to be 11 p.m. It's not quite midnight yet for me. It fits perfectly with your Nephilim look like clowns theory, and you should check it out. Le Bon Homme, I'm pretty sure. I think I've seen this one before, Le Bon Homme mascot. Yeah. I think it may have been you who sent me this, but that's a really trippy, horrible looking monster, isn't it? Yeah. A 7-foot tall, 400-pound snowman sporting a red cap, black buttons. It's funny because those black buttons are very reminiscent of the Poirot clown costume as well. The French Canadian mascot, yeah. The Bon Homme. I'll include this one in a maybe a Christmas special or something for the Nephilim look like clowns. But thanks for reminding me of that one. Absolutely, it's definitely a creepy looking thing, and that smile is immovable, isn't it? A very, very weird looking smile. Absolutely. If you guys just want to quickly see this, I'll share the screen with you. But this is what he's talking about. This thing. An enormous snowman with a red cap. There we go. Looks like some kind of Masonic mascot, doesn't it? Of some kind. It looks like something satanic. You know what I mean. Something weird about that. Absolutely. Right, let's get this back up. I'm fascinated with the idea of the earth burning with a fervent heat, causing all of these structures to sink. That is an interesting way of viewing it all, absolutely. If you're going off a preterist worldview, it's possible that the Revelations situation did involve a lot of fire and heat. Maybe that's already happened, and maybe that's why a lot of this stuff would come to pass and looks the way it does, why we have a lot of melted buildings, which we now call mountains with holes in the side, but I don't know. It's all speculation, isn't it? And I think that's the point of these cults, to give up on God altogether. Yeah. That was enchanting what you wrote, says Sacred Grove Bros. Yeah. The giant snowman reminds me of the giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters for some reason. Yeah, I know what you mean. The giant snowman. The divisions of the belief of the Creator, Christianity, etc., has always been done with wicked intentions. Our adversary is a sore loser. He already lost, but as I said, he's a sore loser. That's it, Bonholm. I'm the grateful one. Thank you, Kimberly. Lived in Utah for 19 years, and that's exactly what happened a lot. People would throw out God along with Mormonism. It's sad, but I understand. Yeah. I've been wondering about that theory. Ears to hear, eyes to see. Definitely, yeah. The emulsion started to take over the locust, and they had to emerge or they would go extinct. And they emerged a couple of days after the Cogs won the 100-Year Pendulum War as well. Yeah, I know, there's loads of fictional nonsense in the video game. That's just made up bollocks. It has nothing to do with reality. But the themes and the ideas are all pulled straight from the Bible and antediluvian history, and obviously Greek mythology as well, with this golden liquid, this ambrosia of the gods or the blood of the gods or something being used as an alternative power or energy source to fuel their hyper advanced civilization or something, or to hybridize humans into serpent like creatures. All of that is just strictly biblical. That's Enoch. It's all just Enoch. It's Greek mythology. It's Enoch. It's the Bible. It's the Clash of the Titans. It's Jasher. It's the mixing of kinds. It's all there. You know what I mean? And that's where you'll find all media just pulls their ideas from these old stories and makes a whole fictional thing from it. And then people eat it up and get obsessed with these fictional realities and these fictional worlds and these fictional stories, not realizing that the truth is kind of being obfuscated by the fiction, and what they need to do is research ancient history, and they'll realize all of these stories, all these amazing, groundbreaking video games that are the epitome of amazing writing and storytelling are just plagiarism. They're just ripped from old stories. It's just complete they're not unique or clever at all, and suddenly you're disillusioned with all of artwork because you realize everybody's just a hack, like just ripping off old stories from ancient history. You know what I mean? And it's these amazing games you used to play as a kid are no longer amazing anymore, and you realize it's all just a lot of satanic bullshit. But that's just life, unfortunately, when you're a conspiracy theorist. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave that there, guys. I think I've gone on for enough. My throat's getting dry. I've been going for 2 hours now, in about 15 seconds, according to my clock here. So yeah, I'll leave it there. thanks for the support, Sacred Grove. I really appreciate that. If any of you guys want to support me as well, please consider signing up to Patreon. I've got a growing community on there, which is wonderful. I'm going to be posting another chapter of my book on there in about a week, which I'm just polishing off now. So some early access stuff there as well. There's a backlog of videos you can go and check out. But your continued support on Patreon really is the best way to support me, and it would be greatly appreciated if you could just consider $5 a month. That's all you need to pay to get access to everything. That would be amazing. And thanks to the people who've donated to the book this month as well. I really appreciate you guys for that. That's amazing. And of course, you will be getting a free signed copy of the book because you donated £100 or more. So that's coming up as well. So thanks for that, guys. And yeah, I'll be back next week with another live show. I'm going to be releasing some more videos this week. I might record a new one. But what I'm doing, I'm going back right now and I'm just taking pieces from some of the interviews I've been doing, which I thought were the best bits, and I'm releasing them. So if you haven't watched the really long 2-hour interviews I've done, I'm going to start releasing short snippets of the best moments just to release for you guys. And because I'm busy writing the book right now, I'm not able to invest as much time into creating brand new videos from scratch. It's quicker for me to just quickly get these snippets right now. I've done hours of podcasting, and that's where my time has been going. So I'm going to release some short versions for you guys to listen to. And also this coming week, I am with Inquiries of Reality tomorrow. I'm on another podcast on Wednesday. And on Thursday, I am interviewing a woman who was involved in the music industry who got out after getting a glimpse at the kind of stuff that goes on, you know what I mean? The dark, seedy stuff. So hopefully we can have a nice discussion with her and she can tell us her testimony of how she got out of it and how she came to Christ. So that should be good fun as well. I've got that coming up for you guys as well. So some stuff in the works. I've got a big backlog list of Nephilim Look Like Clowns videos to make, topics to cover. And when I find the time, I promise we'll get them to you guys. But like I said, Patreon, if you get the chance, I'll be releasing a chapter on there soon. But thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. And as always, God bless. And this guy says bye as well.